part of having a belief is that you need to define it. You need to define what it is that you want. What is the vision of it? What does your next level lifestyle look like? Alrighty, champions, welcome back to another episode of the Champion Life Podcast. I'm your host, Curt Tucker. On today's episode, I'm super excited to share with you one of the things that I believe has not only held so many people back in life, it's held me back, it's held people close to me back, and it's the subject of fear. So if you are a person who struggles with any type of fear, worry, doubt, or any of those things, this is going to be an episode that is going to be a breakthrough episode for you. I can promise you that. So let's get right into it today. I want to talk about the most common fears, first of all, that I believe that I see people struggle with, that I've struggled with, and maybe you've struggled with. So then as we begin to start identifying those fears, now we can begin to start putting a plan in place to overcome them. And I want to give you 3 specific tactics, if you will, today to overcome any fear and to literally be able to crush any goal. Because remember, one of the things that I like to say, that I like to talk about, is that I don't believe we are meant to be goal setters. I believe that we are meant to be goal achievers. And that as long as you don't quit on any goal, you're more than likely gonna get to it, okay? So let's talk about this. What are the most common fears that people deal with? Well, I believe that there is obviously the fear of failure, right? What if I try this? What if I start this new business? What if I do this new exercise program that I've tried before? What if I begin to start implementing this new financial strategy and it doesn't work out? What if I, do this, I go after this one goal and I don't accomplish it? The fear of other people. What are other people going to think about me? All right. So there's the internal fear of ourself as we're in our own head and we're fearing taking action on something. But then there's also the fear of what are other people going to think about us if we don't reach that specific goal that we're going after, right? Maybe it's the fear of success, right? What if I get this goal, I reach this financial income, and then all of a sudden I can't maintain it? For those of us who have maybe reached a certain goal, but then we backslid, we couldn't maintain the success, right? That's the reason why a couple of things I'm going to talk about today in this podcast are going to be huge for you if you struggle with these different things, okay? So whether it is the fear of what other people are going to think, the fear of failure, the fear of can I actually do this? Can I maintain this success? There's so many different types of fears that hinder us. And I'm going to go ahead and just throw worry. I'm going to go ahead and throw doubt into this equation of fear as well, okay? Because so many of the different things that we worry about, that we have doubt about, literally are fear-based, okay? And so as I begin to talk today about 3 specific things that I believe you and I every single day can implement into our lives, I believe that as we begin to start implementing these things, this is where we begin to start having life change. And I want to share a story with you real quick today of just one of the things that I know that I can trace back that I talked about for so many years wanting to do, but fear stopped me from doing it, okay? And that one thing is writing a book. For so many years, I wanted to write a book. I wanted to be able to take the things that had, really taken my life from a life of literally brokenness in so many different areas. I mean, as I look back and I think about the story that was written in my book of just so much broken, busted, disgusted, as you like to kind of, hear me talk about. And I talk about simple things in my book like don't share your successes, share your messes, right? If you want to impress people, tell them about your successes. But if you want to empower people, tell them about your messes. And I got that from a good friend, Tim Goad, a good mentor of mine. And one thing that I've noticed, guys, that I want to illustrate as point number one is that so many people that I know that have had great success in their life, in their marriage, in their business, they are people of faith, okay? They are people of, yes, the Christian faith, but they're people of faith. They're people that they have learned how to have a belief system, a attitude, if you will, that it's possible. And what I mean by it is if we just would look at the word it, okay, as representing anything that you want to accomplish in your life. If you want to make more money in your business, if you want to get in the best shape of your life, if you want to have a marriage that's filled with more love and passion and intimacy, if you want to have a better relationship with your kids, whatever it represents, a new home, a vacation that you've never been able to go on, it doesn't matter. It is always going to begin with thinking that it's possible. Because if we don't believe that something is possible, more than likely we will never even begin the journey to the destination. So what I want to share with you is number one is faith. Like we have to believe before we begin. All right. That's just what's going to happen is sometimes you're going to want to begin to do something. You're going to begin to start going in the right direction. But if you are loaded with a bunch of doubt and fear and worry, you're not going to probably ever get to the destination. But if you can just have enough faith to just get going, more than likely, now you can begin to start doing some of the other things that I'm going to talk about here in a second. It's so hard to steer a parked car. Think about that for a second. So as you begin to start mustering up, as it says in scripture, a mustard seed of faith, which isn't very big, man, now all of a sudden through that little bit of faith, amazing things can begin to start happening. So as I thought about my book and years of fear of, am I good enough? Well, I didn't graduate high school. I don't have I'm not a writer. I don't really even know how to, properly use Microsoft Word or, all these different things. One of the things that was a deciding factor in me beginning to even go into the journey of finishing my book was just simply telling myself every single day, it's possible. And here's how I knew that it was possible. And one of the things that I want to encourage you to do in any goal that you're trying to accomplish right now, whether once again, it's in your life, it's in your marriage, it's in your business, is I just simply went and looked at other different books that were written. I looked at other people that were authors. I have books all around my home office, all around, my office at, my business, all around my home. And I begin to just start thinking, well, hold on for a second. If they could do it, I could do it. And so that began to just give me that faith that was like, hold on for a second. Like if this person can write a book, I can write a book. And then I begin to just start looking at what they did. Like, okay, well, let's just, and Tony Robbins says it best. He says, success leaves clues. So if you look at some people in your life right now who have what you want, okay, meaning they got a marriage and it's like, man, how is it that they just seem like there's so much bliss in their marriage? Or how is it that that person lives in that home or drives that car? Or here's a big one. How is it that that person, every time I run into them, just seems like they're so filled with so much joy. They have so much peace. Like they just don't ever seem to be rattled. Okay. Like there's something going on there. And I believe that when we can begin to start identifying, people or getting around, it's one of the big reasons why I'm such a believer in investing in books that we read, seminars that we go to. I'm super excited that the next upcoming podcast is going to be one on marriage and sex. and purity. And it's going to come from Cancun, Mexico, which is one of my favorite places to travel, because actually my wife and I are leaving tomorrow morning for a marriage retreat in Cancun. Now, why am I sharing that with you? Because it is one of the core principles that I believe in, is that we have to get in the room, that we have to be willing to invest in ourselves and get around other people that are living a leveled up lifestyle. That's right. Write that down. Leveled up lifestyle. Looking and seeking and finding other people that are doing life at a higher level in a specific area that we want to grow in. That's why if we need to take our body to the next level, it's great to invest in a coach or a trainer if you don't have that skill or that knowledge yet. If it's a business, if it's, whatever it is, investing in you will always be the best investment that you can ever make, 100%. So what I begin to start noticing is that, hey, listen, I need to start researching and seeing what is it that these authors do. And as I begin to start looking at different things, one of the first things that I noticed is that after the belief of something, when you can begin to start believing, but part of having a belief is that you need to define it. You need to define what it is that you want. What is the vision of it? What does your next level lifestyle look like? What kind of income do you want to earn? What does your body look like, right? What does your marriage look like? Whatever the goal is, you have to define it so that it's not vague. There's a reason why the bullseye on a dartboard is worth the most points, okay? Because, and so you want to create the bullseyes of your life. You want to begin to start defining the things that you want. So, my original mentor years ago, that was one of the first things that he did with me, is he said, Curt, listen, you're out here trying to hit goals that you haven't clearly defined. You haven't figured out exactly what you want. So even if you begin to start moving, you don't really know what direction you're moving in. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to define those goals. So I would encourage you to define it. So one of the first things that I did with writing the book, okay, was on my way home from a trip from Cancun, literally October 14th of 2021. And some of you guys won't be able to see this unless you're watching this on YouTube, but I defined in my journal and laid out my entire book in a 3-hour flight coming home from Cancun. Literally, I knew what the title was going to be, what the subtitles were going to be, what I wanted the cover to look like. I laid out the chapters. I laid out every story of my life that was important, that I felt would add value to other people's lives. And I wrote those key stories down, those key teaching points that I wanted to share, and all those different things. And then most importantly is I laid out my plan of execution. Here are the things that I'm going to do on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis to finish this book. And so number 2, step of overcoming fear is you've got to be in consistent action, which is going to take focus. There is going to be so many different things that are going to try to derail you when you begin to start, acting in faith, if you will, and taking action on the goals that you have set for yourself, on the life that I believe that God has for each and every one of us. But, it's so often that we lose focus. We become distracted. I call it the shiny ball syndrome in business, where many times as entrepreneurs, we'll get going, we'll get rocking, our business is growing, we're starting to have things happen. And then next thing you know, it's like, ooh, this is a great opportunity over here. Or a lot of times when I'm talking with young entrepreneurs, okay, and when I say young, I'm at the ripe age of 41 now, but I can remember I was this way in my early 20s. And so when I talk to young entrepreneurs who are just kind of getting going, and maybe you can align with this, is there's so many different things that you want to do. Like you're just like, I got this idea. And what I've learned in the journey of life is that many times it's going to require a massive amount of energy and focus in the initial beginning of any goal, any new business, any new relationship, to really get that thing off the ground, if you will. It's just like, flying. When a plane is taking off, it has to be literally at max power to be able to get that thing off the ground. Now, once it gets off the ground and it takes flight and it gets to a good cruising altitude, it doesn't need as much power and all those different things. And it's much like that in a business and a new relationship, anything is, it's going to require a lot of focus. And with focus and with a new goal, trust me, is going to come a lot of distraction. So the moment that we can learn to be consistent, okay, every single day, identifying those 2 or 3 things that we need to do on that specific goal. Now, even when we have fear, okay, which comes doubt, which comes uncertainty, which comes all those other things, if we are willing to stay in consistent action and doing whatever it is that we need to do day by day by day, it's amazing how fear will just literally dissipate when we're taking massive action, okay? When we're doing the things that we know we need to do. It's why I'm so huge on just working out every single day for 20 or 30 minutes, because I know that if I do that, I'm gonna be one step ahead. Or, hey, I've got these 3 specific outcomes today that are simple that I can achieve today in my business. It may be 2 or 3 very important phone calls that need to be made, right? I call it, many of us have heard the 80-20 rule, right? Where sometimes just 20% of our activities can yield 80% of our results, okay? But we got to make sure that we do those 20% activities every single day. In a marriage, oh my gosh, I learned this early on of just the simplicity of taking 30 seconds to a minute and praying for my wife and with my wife every single day. That's a game changer. Or what about there's 168 hours in a week, and most of us are working 40 to 50 hours a week, giving that time to our jobs, or maybe if you're an entrepreneur, to your business. But what about in your marriage if we're just willing to give 1 hour a week to go on a date night with our spouse, to be able to have time together, to communicate, to be intimate? That is a game changer in our marriage, right? So it's when we are willing to be consistent, to stick with the things that we committed to, which is alluding me to point number 3 today in this quick podcast. That's a game changer. Now all of a sudden we begin to start overcoming these fears, these worries, these doubts, because we begin to start getting better. See, we fear the unknown. If there's anything that you have thought about doing in the past, if a friend asks you to come and do something, if you are confident in whatever it is that they ask you to do, hey, listen, we're getting ready to go ice skating this weekend. All right. A person who has never ice skated before, who has seen people fall, hit their head, get injured, is going to probably more than likely say, no, I don't want to do that, right? Because the lack of confidence is there. There's fear there. But the person who has went and got a couple lessons, maybe they grew up, playing hockey as a guy, or, skating, as a family or whatever, they would probably be way more likely to say, oh my gosh, that sounds awesome. That sounds fun. Let's do it, right? Because there's confidence there. Well, what's the difference between the two people? The difference is that person who said, yes, let's do it, had more confidence. Because what? Because at some point in their life, they began, all right? They got started, they had faith, and then they kept doing it, right? So I kind of like to say, believe, begin, become, right? Like you got to begin, you got to believe, and then you got to begin. And then eventually, whatever it is that you want in your life, it's going to be a reality, okay? Because you just kept going and you never stopped. And that brings me to point number 3, which is the follow through. So we got faith. You got to have the faith to begin. All right. You got to have the focus to just keep going and being consistent. And then number 3 is the follow through, where if you will just keep going and never quit, you will reach your destination. You will reach your destination. And so as I begin to start looking at now, the book that I hold right here in my hands that so many people now have read and sent me messages, and I'm so humbled to even think that, God would use somebody like me with a GED, with a 1.3, GPA in high school, to now, 22 years later, be able to have businesses and just a champion life that I want for so many people. I'm just so grateful. I'm so thankful. But these are lessons that I learned from other people, from great mentors, great coaches that said, Curt, listen, you got to believe. I didn't make up any of this stuff, right? And so as I look at the book that I have today that's in my hands, and I've heard this quote say that if you can dream it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand. Because I do believe that the man goes where his mind begins first. Okay. So when you have the ability to picture something in your mind and you begin to focus on it over and over and over again, i.e. visualization, which is a huge part of my morning routine, naturally we begin to just start having those things in our life. And so the follow through was just, listen, some days I didn't feel like writing, just like some days you're not going to want to feel like making those extra calls in your business or going and hitting that workout or asking for forgiveness in your marriage or, whatever, taking that risk, that chance, but you just do it anyways, right? Nike did get it the best by just saying, just do it, and it's when we don't let fear stand in our way, but we realize that if we're willing to just get going and figure out a way over it, under it, through it, around it, whatever, that things are possible. And it's one of the things that I'm wearing on my shirt right now today is the verse Philippians 4:13 that says that I can do all things through Christ. All means all. Anytime I see that in the scripture, I think, man, all means all. That means, Curt, it's possible. Whatever it is that I'm going for today, whether I'm trying to level up as a husband, as a father, as a leader in my businesses, whatever it is, it's possible. This podcast is something that for so long I wanted to do, to just share with people who would be willing to listen to me. And I want to say right now that thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to spend 30 minutes with me a week, that I could come to you and I could share with you just my successes and my messes that have helped me, be, in a different lifestyle than I was, 15 years ago, a life of abundance, of freedom and victory, right? So if you think about the follow through, friends, it's if you are willing to just commit and live daily based upon your commitments, not your interest, meaning that sometimes we set goals that we're interested in, that we say we want this to happen, but we're really not committed to them. And so now what happens is if I wake up in the morning and I'm just not feeling it that day, right? I quit. I don't go to the gym. I don't do what I wanted to do. I don't make those extra calls versus saying, no. I'm committed. And I understand that if I just follow through on my commitments, not based upon how I feel that day emotionally, because our emotions will lie to us. Now, the great thing is many times when you feel a certain way, whether it could be good or bad, you could have, feelings of great stuff like love and joy and peace and, bliss and all those things. And trust me, if you have those feelings and you asked yourself, what am I thinking about right now? It would be great things. Okay. Versus if you have feelings of fear, of worry, of doubt, of anxiety, of things of that nature, trust me when I say this, if you ask yourself this question during that moment of you feeling a certain way, what am I thinking about right now? It would be things of negative. Okay. I'll give you one quick example here. If you're a parent like I am and you have high school kids that drive, okay, for so long, I would be so afraid of not, I wouldn't want to go to bed. I wouldn't want to go to sleep at night until my kids were home. And I like to go to bed early at about 9 o'clock so I can get up at 5 in the morning to do my hour of power, get my day started. But I would find myself laying in bed, waiting and waiting and waiting for my kids to come home. Maybe there was a late night open gym, they're out with their friends or whatever. And I realized that during that time, I would just be sitting there worrying. I would be looking at the Life 360 app. Are they driving? All these different things. And I love in Matthew 6:27, it says, who of you by worrying can add 1 single hour to your life? See, we worry about so many different things, whether it's our kids, it's finances, our health, whatever. And we play what I like to call the what if game, where we say what if, and then we just fill in the blank with the worst images in our head and, the worst case scenarios and all those different things. And I really just, had the Spirit speak to me and say, hey, listen, Curt, who of you by worrying can add 1 single hour of your life, or could get 1 extra hour of sleep, right? And he just said, listen, go to bed, turn your phone on airplane mode. Now, I'm not saying be irresponsible, but if I've communicated with my kids that there's a time I know they're coming home, then listen, I'm just going to put my phone on airplane mode and I'm going to go to bed. And I understand they're going to be okay, because at the end of the day, they're his kids before they were ever my kids. Okay. It's my job to raise them to become champion adults and do everything that I can and raise them right. But at the end of the day, they're going to be responsible for themselves, especially at the age that my youngest kids are at 18 and 16, is I have to just believe that I've done everything that I can to raise them right and lead them right, and then not worry about it. And so that gave me such freedom to go to bed and switch out that fear, that worry for the last hour of the night with 100% peace. And friends, I want to encourage you today that the moment that you can begin to start really thinking about what you think about, you will have the ability to control your emotions. You will have the ability to exit from fear, from worry, from doubt, from anxiety, where we are picturing the worst case scenarios happening in our life. And we can begin to start living more with love, with joy, with peace, and all those different beautiful emotions that I believe that God wants us to live in more every single day. So, hey friends, listen, 3 steps to overcoming any goal, okay, or any fear in accomplishing any goal. I believe that if you will have the faith to get started, friends, you will have the focus to continue and be consistent every single day and follow through based upon your commitments till completion of whatever goal it is that you set for yourself. That is how you will level up in your life. You will have so much more abundance in your life, so much more freedom in your life, and you will 100% begin to start having victory in every single area. So, hey, next week, guys, we're going to talk about marriage with my wife from Cancun, purity, sex, some of the things that we have found absolutely help take our marriage to the next level. So I would love, though, to hear today, what is the one goal that you've been letting fear stand in your way? Please comment on the podcast, send me a DM on Instagram, or Facebook. I would love to hear and get some feedback from you and my audience on one thing that's maybe that big goal that you have that you've been letting fear stand in your way, that now with faith, with focus and follow through, you're going to take massive action to take that goal and now make it a reality. Hey friends, love you all. Keep working hard on living that champion life, and we'll talk to you soon. God bless.